Chapter 9. The Front. The following afternoon, our platoon was ordered down to the front line trenches. Hals, Jacob, Oscar, and the rest of us followed Doberman down one of the steep, crisscrossing trails leading from the bunkers and artillery emplacements on the hill. Rifles in hand, lugging full packs, we made our way across the flatlands toward our most forward lines of defense, a vast semicircular maze of interconnecting open trenches. Beyond was a blackened wasteland of rolling hills. It had once been a forest. The blasted remains of a few trees still sprouted from the sooty ground. Strung between these were coils of barbed wire. We relieved the 5th platoon. The soldiers, mostly young reinforcements like us, were a dirty, weary, and miserable-looking bunch. When Doberman informed them that they were being relieved and sent to the rear, up to the fortified bunkers behind us on the hill, they were overjoyed. Smiling, they scrambled out of the trenches. Scared, we scrambled in. 4 feet wide and 4 feet deep, the almost shoulder-high trenches were muddy, littered with trash of every sort, and stank of urine and rotting garbage. All around, the soil was cratered and plowed-looking, as though an insane farmer had tilled his land into a mindless pattern of furrows. Only boots, burned cloth, and chunks of metal grew from them. A Russian assault is probably imminent. Doberman gathered us together. An attack could come at any time. It may be just a probe, or it may be an all-out assault. Steel-blue eyes in the disfigured face scrutinized us. They cannot go around us or outflank us. To our right flank is swampland. To our left is the river, the Pript. Our artillery atop the hill behind you gives us command of the surrounding land. The Ivans must take the hill, and to do so they must first come through our front lines, through you. They will try to... Momentarily silencing Doberman and startling all of us, Mr. Long Underwear and 2 other veterans dropped feet first into the trench. More followed. They were all business. They laid stick grenades in neat rows on the sandbags fronting the trench. Machine guns were set on tripod stands. We watched as the one nearest us was loaded by locking down a heavy, glistening belt of ammunition into the breech. Metal boxes filled and more ammunition were placed within easy reach, as were wooden boxes containing flares and grenades. With a bayonet, a moon-faced man pried off the lid of a long box, then removed a tube-like weapon. Doberman asked for the thing. "How familiar are you with the use of a Panzerfaust?" asked Doberman, cradling the heavy weapon. Only the muscular Meyer Fastnacht and a boy with a gold-capped front tooth had ever fired one before. Doberman quickly discovered. The scars on his face turned to angry red lines. "Didn't they teach you anything in training camp?" he demanded. Oscar's Adam apple bombed up and down. "No, sir, at least not much. I was in camp only 3 weeks. Our Obergefreiter said we'd learn soon enough all we needed to know once we got to the front." Doberman waited a moment before beginning to speak again. He patted the hollow metal tube. "The Panzerfaust is a rocket launcher, primarily an anti-tank weapon," he began, then continued, explaining how it was operated as it was passed from hand to hand. "What else, if anything, did they teach you?" asked our platoon leader. A platter-faced boy spoke up. "How to clean, load, and fire a rifle," he smiled faintly, "and how to prepare and throw a grenade." "First you unscrew the safety cap," said Jacob, interrupting and trying to show that he knew as much as Platterface. "Then you count to 3, pull out the red button, and then give it a toss." "Incredible," muttered Doberman. "Thank you," said Jacob, mistaking this for a compliment. "Nein, meine Knabe." "No, son. What I meant is that it is incredible that they are not only sending children to this slaughterhouse, this abattoir. They have not really trained you at all." He picked up a stick grenade, removed the safety cap, then pointed to an exposed button-like projection. "Look, young man," he said to all of us, but directing his gaze at Jacob. "You wait a 3 count after pulling out the button. not after unscrewing the cap. Yes, Feldwebel, Jacob stammered, his face turning red with embarrassment. Dobelman continued with his impromptu lesson. He went over the use of flares, machine guns, bayonets, and then mines. Crank the plunger counterclockwise, he said, indicating a box from which wires trailed out into the scarred, blacked earth beyond our trench. Lift the plunger, give it a quarter turn clockwise, then push it down. He pointed at shell craters about 100 meters off. When the Ivans come, they will jump into the shell holes, which we have packed with detonation cord, dynamite, and S4 mines. When they jump in, blow them back out. In pieces. In pieces? Said Hals, his voice a breathy whisper. Tense eyes, shaded by the lip of a helmet, were locked on Dobelman. It is either you or them, Knabe. You are fighting for your lives and for those of your Kameraden. He paused. A silence settled over our group in this trench, and again he looked from face to face. My stomach clenched in a knot as Dobelman's gaze came to a rest on me, then on my rifle, a standard issue 4-cartridge Mauser. He took it from my hands and held it up. Always take good care of your weapon, he said. Treat it with the respect, care, and gentleness you would a lady. Treat your weapon well, and it will treat you well. He handed the rifle back to me, and then, crossing his arms over his chest, looked at me in the eye. But what's your best and most important weapon, boys? He asked. The question was directed at me, and I was supposed to answer it, I felt. I don't know, Feldwebel, I said, wiping my hands, wet with nerves on my pants and hanging my head. I felt stupid, as though I had failed an important test. Dobelman pointed to his head. Your most important weapon is your brain, your mind power. Things may get very rough, far more than you think possible. When that happens and you're so scared you think you're going to lose your mind, don't. Do not lose control. If you do, if you permit that to happen, then you will be dead. He scowled. I hope you are paying very close attention to what I am saying. Are you? Ja, Feldwebel, we answered in unison. Remember, always, always, always keep your wits about you. He wiped away perspiration that had collected in a webwork of scars beneath one eye. If heavy shelling should start, just keep down. Think about nothing but what is coming next, and what you must do to be ready for it. Ready for what? I wanted to ask, but nothing came out. When the shelling is over, that is when the tanks and the infantry come. Fire everything you've got and keep firing. Panzerfaust at the tank. Mortars, mines, and Faust will disable or destroy some, maybe most, coming your way. But if tanks start breaking through, do not panic. You can run laterally through the trenches, and you can belly crawl backwards, but never, never get up and try to run away. If you get up, you are dead. You've got a better chance of surviving by just staying in your trench and letting the tanks pass over. Your rifles and grenades, use those on the infantry. Bring down all you can, but the time may come when there is really no more you can do. And if the Russians have breached our lines and are all around, and you have no chance of escaping, just play dead. He smiled crookedly. Play dead, but keep thinking. Strong blue eyes blinked inside a mask of horrors. Good luck, gentlemen, he said, coming out of a crouch. Hopefully the Ivans will not come at us on our shift, but if they do, be ready. After assigning us all different tasks, he left us. On some mission known only to himself, he headed away down the trench, past ever-growing numbers of our troops. That evening, a kitchen truck brought us hot rations. As we ate, Jacob and Willie began talking about Dobelman. Not only had we all come to look up to him, there was something very mysterious about the man. Long Underwear, who had been listening to us idly, leaning back against the trench wall and smoking a cigarette, turned his head our way. Listlessly, he blew a stream of blue-gray smoke at us. Rolf Dobelman was a philosophy teacher and gymnastics instructor, said Long Underwear. He's married, and has 3 kids. After a grenade went off almost in his face, and after months in a hospital, he had a friend write a letter home that he was dead. He was too ashamed of how he looked to go home. He re-enlisted. The war took everything from him. The war now is all that he has left. From 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. I was posted with 2 veterans as forward lookouts about half a kilometer beyond our lines. Each of us had a flare gun, and we were told to fire a blue flare if we saw any large-scale movement. We saw nothing. After our relief showed up, we made our way back to our lines through the endless labyrinth of open trenches. I crawled into our trench, pulled a blanket over myself, and immediately fell asleep. I'm not really sure when the artillery barrage began. It was a couple hours before dawn, I think. At first it did nothing but annoy me. All I wanted to do was sleep, but that quickly became impossible. I sat up and looked around. I saw a long, open trench full of scared faces. The closest was Jacob's. His mouth was open, and the explosions made his teeth flash red, like little neon signs going on and off. Hal's was stuffing packets of bullets into the multiple pockets of his cartridge belt. Across from me, skinny Oscar was a stiff silhouette. He looked like a pole with a helmet balanced on it. At first, most of the rounds were landing far behind us, blasting away at our heavily fortified bunkers on the hillsides. There was a lull. Then suddenly I heard a sound like a freight train coming directly at us. I lay flat in the bottom of the trench. There was a huge flash. Then the bottom of the trench bounced up into me. Dirt and debris rained down. Shrapnel whizzed past. More freight train-like shells hurtled through the night. I curled into a ball in the trench as the whole world seemed to detonate. "Stop it!" Jacob screamed. As if in response, the shelling suddenly ended. "It's over," mumbled Hals. "Is it over?" Warily we rose up. I looked into the black, cold maw of night. Then behind me, at a landscape dotted with what looked like hundreds of little campfires, all started by the shelling. "My hand hurts," said Willie. "Oh," I said. Willie held up his arm. It was only a stump. "Medic!" Jacob screamed.